So here we have a sheep brain that we'll be dissecting. This is the superior view of the brain. And I want to first point out the white covering around the brain. The membrane that covers the brain and the spinal cord is called the meninges. The dura mater is the outer membrane, and the arachnoid is the middle membrane, and the pia mater is the innermost membrane. This is the dura mater that we'll be cutting away very soon. Before we cut away, I want to look at the inferior side of the brain and point out the pituitary gland, which can be difficult to see after cutting away the dura mater. The pituitary gland is attached to the hypothalamus, and the pituitary gland is known as the master gland, and it secretes controlled timing and amount of hormone secretions by other endocrine glands. Alright, now here we are going to go ahead and cut off the dura mater as well as the fatty tissue here. So here's the dura mater we cut away. Okay, so here's the inferior view of the brain. I'm going to point out the brain stem, which is the primitive part of the brain. If we look at the lower part of the brain stem, it is the start of the spinal cord. The spinal cord controls many reflex activities of the body, and it transmits information back and forth from nerves of the peripheral nervous system to the brain. Up from that, we have the medulla oblongata, which is the first set of bumps on the brainstem. The medulla oblongata is the most posterior portion of the brainstem, and the vital centers of the medulla include the cardiac center, which helps control heart rate, the vasomotor center, which helps regulate blood pressure, the respiratory center, which helps initiate and regulate breathing, and the center for reflex actions. The second set of bumps on the brainstem are called the pons. They form a bump on the anterior surface of the brainstem. The pons is the link that connects various parts of the brain. The large portion of the brain is called the cerebellum. It is the highly convoluted structure of the hindbrain. It is responsible for the coordination of movements, so it helps make movements smooth, helps maintain muscle tone, and helps maintain equilibrium. So now we're going to look at the superior view of the brain. We're going to show you the cerebrum. The cerebrum is also known as the forebrain and is the largest, most interior part of the human brain. It controls motor activities and interprets sensations. This here is a longitudinal fissure. This separates the brain into right and left hemispheres. Each side of the cerebral hemispheres is organized to receive sensory information, mostly from the opposite side of the body, and controls muscles mostly on the opposite side. The cerebral cortex is a thin outer surface of the forebrain. It is largely made of cell bodies, which are gray, and therefore we call it gray matter. This is the most highly evolved portion of the brain. Okay, and these ridges here are known as the gyri, and these folds of the brain are known as the sulci. This setup allows for more information to be stored in the brain. Now I will point out the different lobes of the brain. Here we have the right and left frontal lobes. The frontal lobes help to control skeletal muscles and help the formation of words. They are responsible for personality. If you look to see where the gyri change direction, that shows where the frontal lobes end and the parietal lobes begin. Here we have the left and right parietal lobes. This is the area for estimation of distances, sizes, and shapes. It is also the sensory association area. On the sides, we have the left and right temporal lobes, which is the auditory area and helps with language, memory, and speech capacity. Back here, we have the left and right occipital lobes, which are the primary visual area. Now, if I turn the brain to its inferior side, we can see the olfactory bulbs, which connect the optic nerve and help with the sense of smell. Now the majority of the optic nerve has been cut away, but look here as the white X, known as the optic chiasm. This is where the optic nerve would attach. Now we're going to look at the superior side of the brain and go ahead and make a mid-sagittal cut through the brain. Alright, now I will use this half of the brain to point out a few more things. Here is the medulla and the pons again. Here we have the thalamus. It is below the corpus callosum and it is the tissue that forms a very defined circle, also known as a big circle. The thalamus is a relay station for all sensory information except smell. Right below that is the hypothalamus, which helps maintain homeostasis. So this is the pineal gland. It is a small gland posterior to the thalamus. The pineal gland secretes the hormone melatonin and it contributes to the regulation of sleep activity cycles. This white area that forms the arch is the corpus callosum, and the corpus callosum is what holds the two hemispheres of the brain together. Now we're going to look at the cerebellum again. This white matter inside is called the arbor vitae, which means tree of life. This helps us with coordination and balance of the rest of the body. Now I will point out the different ventricles. The ventricles are 4 fluid-filled cavities within the brain. The first and second ventricles combine to form the lateral ventricle. It is the area in the middle of the corpus callosum. The third ventricle is below the lateral ventricle and it travels all the way down to the cerebellum. The fourth ventricle travels further down the cerebellum and enters into the notch here. The cerebrospinal fluid is the clear, colorless fluid that is contained within the ventricles. It is produced mainly by a structure called choroid plexus, which is located in the ventricles. The function of the ventricles and the CSF is for protection to reduce pressure, excretion of waste, and to transport hormones to other areas of the brain. Okay, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed it.